relationships, it took a lot of undoing
Mm.
of stories that I formed and wrote and that almost felt like they were written for me, but I know ultimately I wrote them in my past relationships. It did for me take time on my own to be on my own, to just kind of really get to know who the frick I was. It hit me one day. I'm like, am I looking at anything through my lens or am I looking at it
Mm.
through their lens? What are my values? What do I not value? Okay, what do I bring to a relationship? Not just what do I want a relationship to bring to me, but what do I have to bring to the table? I think is
Welcome back to another episode. Before you listen to today's episode, I'd like to ask you a huge favor. So many of you listen to this podcast, but you're not yet subscribed, potentially on any platform. The more of you that subscribe and share this with your friends, the more that we can bring more content to you, more topics, and more knowledge and wisdom and amazing guests. And right now, this is my passion project. So I'm not making any money from it. And it does take a lot of my time amidst supporting my incredible clients inside the Lovely Radical Academy. And I get so many messages of lives that are being changed because of having access to this exciting knowledge and support and conversation and community. And by simply clicking a button to subscribe and to share, you're part of that impact, which is pretty cool. So take a moment now, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. I'm super excited to introduce you all to the beautiful Caitlyn Burns, who is a holistic health and confidence coach. She is also a host of a podcast herself and an absolute vibe on all the social media platforms. I have been a fan from the beginning, so it is awesome to have her here. And we wanted to get into a little bit of a conversation about embodiment of our story and confidence and dreams. And I am obsessed with this topic. I am obsessed with language and story and how we all kind of hypnotize ourselves in so many ways. And this does impact our reality. So I would love to hear from you, my love. Like, tell us a bit about you, about your story. Like, where did it start? Wherever you think the beginning is, and then what led you to doing what you're doing now, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and just talk with you today. Um, Man, where did it start? That's such a funny question. I I guess I always say like I think our whole life is our journey, right? Our whole life is our spiritual journey or our wellness, whatever the frick you want to call it.
Yeah.
I've tried to remove labels for myself personally recently, and it's so freeing. And
Mm.
I'm already jumping the gun. I'm sure we'll get into this, but I had this whole awakening happen this summer where I was like, oh my God, I don't have to be one way, and life is so dynamic. But anyway, it sort of started, I guess, in college is what I always say, where I kind of hit my own rock bottom with mental health.
Mm.
I was around a sophomore in college, so that was age 20, 19, 20 for me.
Yeah.
And my whole life I'd functioned with anxiety and all of the things. But I think it all came to a head that year. Super anxious,
Mm.
super depressed, all the labels, and I was diagnosed with this and that. And I think that can be empowering to give it a name, but I think I let it become a little bit disempowering at the same time. And I let it define me.
Yeah.
But I had this turning point where I said, I am going to figure this out. I want to get out of this.
Mm.
I'm an actor. I went to school for acting. So I always had to be on stage. I always had to be seen, even in just every single day classes. Like we had to just share and be so vulnerable all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's I wouldn't have had it any other way. I think that contributed to my healing so much, no matter what, just
Mm.
letting yourself be seen. And it was sort of this paradox because I chose this career in art where I want to be seen. And the whole point is that, and yet I was so afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think
I feel
like
you.
right? like sharing online even, and being a coach, being a leader. Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny that sometimes the things that like light our souls on fire the most also scare us the most. And
Mm,
I was experiencing that. I was in a really tough relationship at the time, very toxic, no bueno. And yeah, so I started going to therapy, and
mm,
that was kind of where it kickstarted for me. I had a very open-minded, lovely therapist at the
great.
time who introduced me to EFT tapping and
Mm.
visualization. And she was so here for the science, yet also so here for the energetics and
Yes.
all of it. I was so lucky to literally just find her randomly online. Like, it was so divine.
Mm,
Um, and then I don't know, I just started sharing with people in my life and realizing how much we benefit from community, talking about our feelings, saying the things that we think are an individual experience. And then you're like, do you ever feel this way? And then the other person's like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one.
yeah.
That really lit me up. And then I was like, I'm going to take this to TikTok. And that was,
Mm.
beginning of the pandemic, where everybody was like locked away. And I still had that desire to share and be seen somehow and to connect with other people. And that's where I began on TikTok.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
wild. So wild. And what is it that you're primarily doing now? Is it still acting?
Yeah. So I have a lot of hats that I'm wearing right now.
Mm. Yeah.
But yes, acting, sent in a bunch of auditions just today. I'm a social media manager for my part-time gig, and I'm also a coach. I just launched a
Yes.
90-day program, so I'm moving through
Yes.
that as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. I'm
So
so
much
glad
fun
you are because I was
stuff.
like, if you're not, it's time.
Oh, it is time, and we've been moving through shifting those stories, which I'm sure we'll get into. So,
Absolutely.
oh,
Yeah. And I
it's
love that
cool.
you brought up that paradox of like not wanting to be seen but being seen because that was I was
Yeah.
reflecting on it myself the other day. I wanted to be like a singer when I was young. I was like, I'm going to be Britney Spears. That's it. And then I kind of watched some documentaries and I was like, oh, too much ridicule. Nah. And then I'm like, and yet I'm in the world now doing what I do and people are going to love it and they're going to hate it and it's actually all perfect. I've found. So when you can
I love that.
learn to navigate it. I actually saw you quote recently something really beautiful. So be delusional when pursuing your dreams, because what may
Mhm.
seem delusional for you could actually make the most sense within the universe's plan for you. Talk to me about that concept for you.
Ah, I love that. So I think that what for me what that means is sometimes the things we perceive as delusional, like, oh, that could never happen, or that only happens to the lucky few.
Mm,
It's actually not delusional at all. It just
mm,
feels delusional for us because we've believed for so long that we couldn't do it, or that it just wasn't in the cards for us, that we're not the kind of person who can do XYZ. That's
mm,
always kind of been my thing. Like, I always thought, oh, that works for them, but I'm never going to be that kind of person. So, and then you just perpetuate the stories because what you say is then how you act on those stories, and you repeat the same everyday cycle over and over.
mhm.
You can break out of it, but you just got to be delusional, even though it's legit not even delusional at
Yeah.
all. But to you, it's going to feel that way.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And it's so true. And I know that that was how it really started for me. Like I ended up studying neurolinguistics and a lot about story and language. And yet in the beginning, it was a lot of chronic health where I just decided one day, like, I'm going to start telling a different story. I'm going to stop saying I'm sick all the time and start saying I'm healing. And it was quite challenging because everyone in my world was like, why aren't you talking about being sick anymore? And I had to like push back against it with this new story. And it felt stupid and crazy. And then I resolved all my health issues. So it was like, oh, there's something in this. And you
Yes.
probably will be seen as delusional by yourself, but also potentially by others. And I think
True.
that's why I loved bringing community together. So it's like, oh, everyone has a similar story who's created their own version of success.
Right. Created their own version of I love that. I love that
Yeah.
because we're taught like, oh, there's this way to be successful. It's this specific path. And if
Mm,
you take any other path, not real. But it's like, yes, it is. And I hear you on like the people around you making you think you're delusional as well, because,
Mm,
they've been in your story for that long too. And that's a
mm,
whole nother aspect. So yeah, having that community of people who are like, no, I'm breaking out of this. That's so
mm,
powerful.
mm.
We're all delusional together.
Yeah, it's great. And then, people slowly
Woo!
start to go, wait, maybe it works. And the definition
Right.
piece is really interesting. I had quite a lift in business in the last 6 months or so. And so I had more money coming in, and I've come from like no monies. And everyone, buys bags and cars and all these things. And I was like, I just want to have a coconut on the beach. Like, my success is not what other people's is. And I like to travel, and I like to, I want to build a place in Bali and stuff. Like, your definition can be different, like your story can be different, and then it's
Mhm.
how can you start embodying that story, yeah, in a community that you're in, and maybe against all of the pushback in your own mind. So talk to me about how you embody new stories. Like, is there a way that it maybe starts when you decide, or what's your process?
Mm. I love that you said when you decide, because I
Yeah.
think that's actually like the the kicker for me. It's like making the decision
Mm.
is the first step, because I've always kind of experienced in my own brain like I probably could, but I'm not going to, or that's too uncomfortable, that's going to take too much work. Um and it's like, yeah, it does take effort and it does take discomfort, because it is a different situation. Our brain isn't like the neural pathways in our brain. I'm sure you know way more about this than I do, and
It's
I'd
so
love
great, yeah,
like
you're
if
on
you
it.
could like correct me, or but yeah, like it's like rewiring your brain and paving a
Mm,
new path essentially, right? And that is uncomfortable because the brain and the subconscious and all that likes comfort. It likes the known, not the unknown.
mm,
That's what I've
mhm,
learned. So I now that I have that like basic understanding of that and knowing it's not going to be easy, I'm more okay with that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to decide then to rewrite this story. And something I've been doing a lot and that really shifted things for me just this past summer was when I discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza's work.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, wow. I'm rereading it right now,
Yeah.
Becoming
Have you heard the
Supernatural.
story about how his daughter like manifested all these different things?
What did she manifest specifically? Jog my
She's
memory.
manifested lots of things, but for anyone who's listening and for you as well, if you look up Dr. Joe Dispenza's daughter manifests shopping spree, it's like the best story. Like, essentially, he has
Oh,
this
I've never
agreement with
heard
his
it.
kids when they were younger. Like, if you want something, cool, we can work towards it. But also, you could do like a 30-day practice of actually just sitting in meditation and imagining it like it's already done. So she was like, I want a unlimited shopping spree. And he's like, cool, well, you know what to do. And so she did her practice. And every morning she'd come out and she'd be like, oh my God, it was so great. I just had the best time in my own mind. And then one day she called him and was like, you'll never guess what just happened. And he was like, what? And she's like, I was shopping in, I think, Beverly Hills or something with a friend of mine. The manager of the store knew my friend's dad, who had recently done him a massive favor, and basically came up to him and was like, I know you're so and so's daughter. He won't let me do anything back for him. Here's my credit card, girls. Have a great day. And he's like, how much did you spend? I think it was like 4.5 grand or something. And he's like, do you feel bad? And she's like, nope.
No, I mean, she shouldn't. That's amazing.
I
No
think there's many
way.
things that she's manifested, but that was my favorite. Yeah.
Wow, I have tears in my eyes and like chills.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so incredible that his work just made everything click for me. Like all of the manifestation things, I was always interested in it since high school. I watched The Secret. I followed so many different YouTubers talking about like different methods and tools, scripting, the 369 method. And what works for people. But for me,
Mm,
something was not clicking.
yeah.
And when I read his book, I love the science. I love it
Yeah.
so much. And being able to
Same.
understand, yeah, the brain and the electromagnetic field and like having that proof. And he did so many experiments. It just, I love it. So that sitting with that, doing his meditations every morning or some form of a like quantum
Mm,
meditation where I'm really feeling it and
yeah.
I'm really, really tapping into like a future memory, as he calls it.
Yeah.
That has been profound for me in shifting identities lately.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. I know, me too. It's really fun to play with, and I know that you mentioned like sometimes there's a lot of pushback in our own mind, but just in that the programs in the wiring, I kind of explain it to my clients like there's a bunch of like glowworms who are just all your life have been doing like no 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 the same circuit, and then one of them's decided to be like a rebel and he's like decided to bang through one of the walls and like go his own way. It's going to take a bit of time to get through that wall to create a new one, so it is uncomfortable. But
Yes.
is there, do you find any common barriers or any sabotage that you like I think we all have our own flavor of sabotage.
Oh yeah.
What does that manifest as for you or any common
Oh yeah.
barriers?
Oh, the self-sabotage is such a finicky, fickle little thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Especially when
It's
you're
so
aware
cute.
of it and you're like, I know I'm doing it. Shit.
Literally, I'm like, is that even worse? Like, no, it's not worse because awareness is the first step. But yeah, being aware of it is so oh, because you feel yourself doing it and you're like, why can't I stop? But I know I can stop. And there's that language right there. But anyway, how it manifests for me is sort of, and I actually wrote about this just yesterday, I think, getting to a certain point of any goal, any situation, whether it be um like a goal of an audition to talk about acting, I
Mm,
will purposefully not send it in. Like I'm like, oh, yep, I'm about there. I'm on this next round. Oh
mm.
no, I missed the deadline, even though I knew there was a deadline. Well, you know, like if there's a
Yeah.
deadline and I miss it, like nothing else I can do. So it's kind of knowing that this next level, it is success, right? And I do want that technically, but I don't know it. It's the
Mm,
unknown, so I shy away. So it'll be like accidentally missing deadlines that I knew about, or honestly scrolling on my phone like at
mm,
night. I know how it makes me feel, and I know that I could be doing something that made me feel a little less anxious, but I'll
mm.
get sucked in and then sit there and like feel that guilt loop of like I should shut my phone off now, but I just keep going.
I should,
So those are
should.
two big
Yeah.
ones. Yeah, all the shoulds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
such a common thing I find as well, and it's that unconscious program again, and a lot of us are more afraid of success because either we haven't like, and even anxiety is really just a fear of the future that we haven't actually decided to allow ourselves to envision at
Mm,
all, so we don't know where we're going. And it can be so interesting to start to go, wait, what am I afraid of? Like majority of people, so a lot of people come to me to make more money in their business, and then we usually end up working on completely other things. I'm like, go have sex
classic.
with your husband a little bit more, and then you'll make more money.
Yeah,
But
love
it's
that.
usually like, well, rich people are evil, or like rich
Mm,
people are unhappy, or whatever the story might be that is carried across. And it might not be about riches, but it might be about, successful people are in mansions, but they're crying their eyes out, or whatever story might have been imprinted. And it's
yeah,
like, well, this is the importance of like, we get to actually define what success is going to be for us and what we might do. Like, if we suddenly had lots of money, like, what would we do with that? Like, how would we use that money? Because there's a
right.
big narrative of like, well, all the rich people are up there and they're screwing us over. But it's like, but what if we all got rich? Because we can.
Mm.
Like, there's an unlimited resource, it's energy. Um, yeah, so it's really interesting to challenge that and see where the roots lie and then start to change that story too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like our story doesn't have to be their story.
Yeah.
We don't have to become them just because that's how they are. We
Mm,
can, like you said, do it our own way, use the money
yeah.
however we feel fit. I like that.
And get out there and like try and meet some successful people and talk to them, because all the ones I've
Yes.
met are really awesome and they give
Mm-hmm.
so much. It's wild.
Yes. Oh, I love
So
that.
wild. I'd love to know like how, like, a lot of my audience are usually wanting some kind of support when it comes to the men and women situation, relationships. We all hate each other, but we really don't. And you don't have to give your story or anything, but like, I'd love to hear like how you map across confidence and embodiment into personal relationships or even romantic ones?
Sure. Sure. I mean, this is a really potent topic for me right now. So
Yeah.
I think for me, like, and honestly, a lot of folks come to me with similar questions. I posted a question box just today on my story, and I have like two relationship questions just within it. It's
Yeah.
connecting,
What we
love.
all want.
It's what we want and what we're here for, to
Yeah.
connect with each other, whether it's romantic or not. Like,
Yeah.
navigating relationships with anybody is, it's dynamic, it's complex.
Yeah.
Um, so finding confidence within interpersonal relationships, it took a lot of undoing
Mm.
of stories that I formed and wrote, and that almost felt like they were written for me, but I know ultimately I wrote them in my past relationships. Um, and it did, for me, take time on my own to be on my own. Um, and to just kind of really get to know who the frick I was without another person.
Mm.
Um, there were so many things where I would move through the day and I would even just put on a song, right? And I would think, what would my past person think about this? What would my past person
Mm.
think about this outfit? Would they judge me for this? Would they judge me for that? And it hit me one day. I'm like, am I looking at anything through my lens, or am I looking at it
Mm.
through their lens? So
Mm.
figuring out what I valued was huge for me. What are my values? What do I not value? Okay, what do I bring to a relationship? Not just what do I want a relationship to bring to me, but what do I have to bring to the table? I think is really a confident standpoint to have, of I
Mm.
know what I bring to this, and the love that I have to offer, and all these things. How do I show them to myself now? Everyone talks about like
Yeah.
self-love, going on self dates, solo dates, and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's so real, like, definitely. And I would do that. But I also just think in the day to day, even the small moments, they don't have to be grandiose dates or anything, just like sitting
Mm.
here right now. If I was nervous, how would I self soothe? That kind of thing. Just
Mm.
how do I take care of me? And then, yeah, I attracted a
Yeah.
really loving relationship right now. So I
Yay.
did something right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you touched on so much there. I was literally full body chills, just pulsing up and down throughout
Oh,
all of that because
magical.
it's so real. And like take like the story for one piece. I know Brene Brown talks a lot about, like, in the absence of all the information, the mind creates this elaborate story to protect us. Most of the
Mm,
time we don't even have all the data for the stories that we've created about exes or the world or men or women. Like, it's from such limited data. And then there's the part where we're not taught to learn who we are. We don't usually get a second to even do that throughout all of the structured schooling and all of it. So
yep.
that piece of actually taking time on your own is so powerful. It's something that I task certain clients to do sometimes when they start with me. I'm like, 3 months of no dating, and they love it. Not.
I mean, it takes
They
some
hate
pressure off.
me when I do
So
this.
funny.
But usually they actually meet someone organically in that space of time. They're like, am I allowed to? I'm like, of course you are. That's kind of the point.
Great. Oh, I
You
love
kind of like
that.
stopped the resistance by actually pushing, and you just focused on, like, well, yeah, what do I want? Who do I want to be? Like, what, like
Yes.
the whole what do I bring to it is so powerful. And thank you for saying that, because we've had the self-love movement, which was so needed.
Hmm.
And then there's the kind of extra step of, like, cool, well, contribution is also a piece that's so important. Like,
Yes.
yes, be selfish. Yes, own your worth. Yes, know what you deserve. But then also, like, how are you going to be in a relationship that's going to bring up everything you haven't dealt with yet, whether you
Right.
like it or not?
Literally everything. Hmm.
And so, yeah, writing the new story, I know that's something I was researching a lot of Jordan Peterson stuff lately, and one of his programs is all about getting men to, like, self-author their lives and, like, rewrite the whole story and start fresh. And it's really beautiful to see that starting to rise up. So
Very much.
yeah, something really cool. There's lots of cool I think that's the thing, is the message that I want to get across to people is that it's not all women, it's not all men. We've had a pretty screwed up 20, 30 years that
Yeah,
everyone's just doing the best they could with what was happening. And now we get to choose a new story that hopefully brings us all back together more. Um, but I'd love to
it's
hear, like,
beautiful.
what's your, what would you define confidence as for you?
Mm. Oh, like that. What would I define confidence as for me? Probably at this point, trust, self-trust,
Mm,
trusting what I bring to the table. Like the confidence walking into a room and just being in my body,
mm,
and being able to look somebody in the eye, being present and just not wondering the whole time, how am I doing? What are they thinking?
yeah.
How's this going? How's this interaction? Like
Are
that,
my
like,
legs crossed the wrong way?
yeah. What do I do with my arms? Just kind of feeling comfortable. And of course, like with comfortable, to get comfortable, you got to get uncomfortable and then you keep pushing. But I guess comfort within the discomfort, even like expansive discomfort is a phrase that I've been saying to myself a lot. Like I follow the expansive discomfort has been kind of like a mantra lately. Um, so
Oof, I
yeah,
love
just
that.
always making sure I'm doing that.
I love that. I
Yeah.
heard there's a quote that's been circulating the internet, and I think it was Alex Hermosi who said it, and it was, you don't become confident by screaming affirmations in the mirror, but you become confident by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are, and you have to
Ooh,
outwork your self-doubt.
I'm
Like,
obsessed with that. Who
I
said
know,
that? I'm
right?
writing that down.
That was Alex Hermosi. I'll message you it after.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew.
I'm pretty sure he's the one who said it. I've like traced the quote back through all the different podcasts who've been
Gotcha.
quoting it because people keep misquoting it, I think. Um,
Sure.
but it's so like, A, we are who we say we are, but have we actually decided who we are and decided to design who we are?
Hmm.
Because a lot of us just say the offhanded stuff like, I deserve this and I want this and I should get this. It's like, but who are you? And
Hmm.
like, what have you done to get that exchange? Who have you become to receive that, and all the things, right? So how can you just build, like, even if there's no one to date for years? This is kind of how I ended up doing what I do, because it's just not been a thing in my reality. And it's just like, just build a stack of proof that you are who you say you are, because you meet, like you said, you attract different experiences and better people on that path.
Hmm.
Like, and you won't know that until you start. So
Hmm.
I love that quote. And I also saw recently, you mentioned in something, you were talking about this different health and self-care protocols, and you mentioned hormones, and like
Mm.
supporting your hormones and your physical health. Like, tell me a bit about your experience with that. I know it's been a massive thing for me to get everything into balance so I can be a nice human.
Yes.
What's
Oh
your
my
experience
goodness.
been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting everything into balance. It's such a balancing act, right? And my friend, who he's actually a hormone, he's certified in hormone health, and he said something the other day about finding balance. And he said it's not about finding balance so much as it is about blank. And I wish I remembered what the heck he
Yeah.
said, because it made something click for me. Because sometimes it feels like, how the heck am I supposed to get this all leveled out?
Perfect. Yeah.
Like there's so much, and there's
We're
so much
not in a
information.
like two polar, like it would just, yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
factors.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I've been like doing cycle syncing lately. It's trending right now on TikTok, as we probably both know. And
Mm.
I think it's the coolest thing ever to tune into our bodies, especially as like women or uterus owners or whatever. It's like, to know that this is like an ecosystem. It's not set up to follow some rigid, regimented,
Mm.
male-based 9 to 5
It's
schedule.
very true. Don't worry,
It's
this is my whole
empowering.
arena. So
Okay, slay,
you
love
are
it.
safe to talk freely here.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it honestly, when I first like realized it, I got like pissed off, to be honest, at first. Like my Aries energy came out and I was like, what the frick is this? I can't believe like this whole system was built, to not support everybody and to just support like one binary, it just is
Mm,
lame. And I think it's like an active revolution to learn about our bodies and heal our
mm,
bodies. So
mm.
I mean, for me, I've been learning a lot about cortisol and its correlation with just how we move through the day, anxiety levels, productivity, confidence even.
Mm.
Um, and so I did like a week of cutting out coffee, and I was a diehard like coffee fiend.
Yeah.
2 cups a day at least kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And since then I've been wavering a little bit. Well, progress over perfection. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's been fun. And I have just kind of been following these I have these backgrounds on my phone of what to eat during each
Mm,
phase. Right now I'm in my menstrual phase, and
love that.
just trying to focus on eating whole foods, incorporating, beets when it says I should have beets,
Mm,
that kind of thing. Just trying
I
to
love that.
simplify it for myself. But I think that uh wellness is quite a world, and it can be overwhelming.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, yeah, I started in the wellness world because of my health issues. And so I have a wellness business. And the thing I bring it back to, I actually did this with all my clients in my group container this week. I was like, let's talk about health. And I was like, and just to preface, everything I go through today is also potentially not real. But also, it'd be probably good if you did some of it. Like, because there
yeah.
seems to be, like, when you've actually been in that world for years and you'd researched everything, like, everything has a proven with research contradiction. So like then you start to go, well, what am I supposed to, what? And
Right.
really it can come down to, like you said, like eating whole foods, drinking clean water, moving
Yep.
your body, do something for your mind, like have good, healthy conversations. And if you're doing that consistently and it helps to be in good communities that keep you motivated, most of the problems in your body and your mind are going to dissipate.
Yes.
Because like, and so I saw someone say this on an interview recently, like it was Diary of a CEO, can't remember his name, Stephen someone, but he said, he's like, without my health there's nothing. He's like, it doesn't matter, like my girlfriend, my dog, my family, like they could all go and I would still have this life, but if my health is gone, it's all gone. Like
Hmm.
they might leave me. They might like it. They no one necessarily has to take care of you if you've destroyed yourself. So it's like, how can
True.
you make the bare minimum at least? But yeah, like you said, like we've and there's feminism that made us be like, we can work like men, except we're not. Evolutionarily,
We're
we're
not
not
built
made to
to.
work like men. And I was talking to someone on a podcast last night about this. We were like, there's a skyrise, like a skyrise, high rise building that's just been built nearby. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, if I did that, my body would not be okay. So it's like, there's all this extra work we're doing. And then there's all sorts of other stresses on our bodies. We also don't know anything about our cycles. So when you learn these things, it's
Yeah.
so empowering. We get confident naturally just by learning about the body. So I love that you're doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'd love that. And what's that? Is that an app that you're using for your home screen?
Actually, it's from a TikTok creator. It's for $7. You can
Yeah.
purchase. She made these backgrounds for your all four phases: menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal phases. And you
Yeah.
just switch your background when you're in that phase. So you just look at your phone. Oh, like what's good to incorporate in my
Yeah.
salad today? Beets. Cool. It's like right there. It's
So
really
great.
cool.
I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, and we're written. This is something Joe Dispenza says, like in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. Like, yes, there's maybe a lot of unhelpful information online, but you also can use you start to use your brain at some stage, your brain and your own energy to be like, I feel like that's right. And I feel like that's worked for
Right.
all these people. So maybe
So
it
maybe I'll
will
try
kind of,
it.
yeah, I'll give it a go. See how it feels
Yes.
in my body.
Yes. Take what resonates and leave the rest. My
Mhm.
motive every time I go online. At least I try. So easy to be
Absolutely.
influenced.
It is, and there's a lot of. I was again talking with a men's coach last night on the podcast about this, and there's a lot of tribe, and we as humans, love tribe. We also need a lot of it after the last few years,
Hmm.
and also a lot of tribe because of just our society and media and programming is very victim mentality based. So, I mean, I had the
True.
opportunity to join the chronic illness tribe at one point, and I did for a second feel really good in that victim story, except I realized that it was making me sicker rather than
Mhm.
leading to solutions. Then when I got solutions, they actually all hated me. So it's really interesting to start thinking about the long term, and is your tribe moving towards solutions that are happening? Because there are solutions to pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a massive thing. You go.
I just want to say, I think it's so
Yes.
powerful what you're saying and what you're sharing, because I think a lot of people are afraid to say that and to do that and to go against the grain.
That's
And
me.
yeah, no, that's something that drew me to you for real though, because
Yeah.
I was like, she's speaking facts. And you
Mm.
even say this at the start of your podcast, like some of this info might upset you, it might trigger you, some of these conversations, but that could be a good thing. Like be open to the possibility that
Mm.
could be a good thing. Um, I
All of
just
my turning points were
commend you,
pretty crappy triggers, and that's just is what it
right?
is.
It's amazing.
Sometimes it took months, sometimes it took years for me to finally lean into it. But I
Yeah,
did eventually, and thanks to all the
you're
people who
doing
triggered
it.
me.
I know. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to my haters.
Yeah. Love you, hate you, love you. Depends on the day.
Yep, literally. And that's okay. We're human.
Yeah. And it's such a powerful piece in healing as well, especially in relationships, is like, can you recognize that polarity? Like, without the bad experiences, you can't actually unlock the good ones. And if
Hmm.
you can learn to actually look at the bad experiences and realize what you could become because of them, you integrate them. And that gives you power and wisdom and drive and motivation and excitement. And all of these doors fly open in the direction that you really want. And in those communities, you don't get that because it's just like blame, blame, blame. Here's how to blame. Here's who to blame. Here's how
Yep.
often. Here's the
Yep.
Facebook groups. So yeah, it's a big thing.
Chills.
Yeah.
Chills. Yeah.
Um, I know that there's, and especially my business journey as a female, there's been a lot of pushback against like the hustle culture, and like we were just talking about like women having to work a lot harder and how it impacts us. And I have felt a lot of times myself like maybe I'm working too hard, maybe I'm uploading too much, maybe.
Mm.
So I personally implemented like good protocols and schedules and stuff like that. And I know that you share a lot of free content as well, and you also have a life and a business and a job. And so talk to me about this for you. Like, has it always been quite comfortable for you to show up like this, or have you had to kind of go through phases of a bit more of hustle? And what does that look like?
Ah, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I often wonder still if I'm not doing enough. So it's
Mm,
funny you were saying like, oh, I wonder if I post too much.
yeah.
For me, I kind of wonder the opposite. And then I'm
Mm,
like, well, no, but I'm not meant to hustle and I don't want to hustle. But then I'm like, but maybe I need to hustle a little bit. So there's always a push and pull. Um, I did have some periods of like intense hustle before I decided to commit to not pursuing that,
mm,
but I think it was part of the path for sure. I was a server at a restaurant for a while, like working crazy hours on my feet.
mm,
And then I would make sure to make a TikTok in my car before, and I would make sure to make it after. And if I thought of something while I was on break, I would make it on break. And like there were
mm.
even sometimes I would like this is gonna sound weird, and I never thought about how odd it is, but on myself like in the bathroom stall, but like just my face, and I would be
Yeah,
all done.
no
But
one knows.
like any moment that I had, I would do it.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt empowering for me at the time because I was like, I no matter what it takes, I'm gonna do this kind of
Mm,
feeling. Um, but I knew that wasn't gonna be my forever, and I knew I
mm,
didn't want it to be my forever. Um, and I think sometimes, yeah, it just is hard, but when you know you're burnt out, the rest is always going to be more productive because the when I came back from that rest, I had way more creative ideas and just energy, different energy to bring, and
mm,
that's what translates.
mm.
So if you got to take a few days off, then you do. And
Yeah,
I became okay with that, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I, because I love to bring that up because or anyone else who shares, I guess, like I do, because I've gone through many cycles over the last kind of 5-6 years of uploading, making content, like, yeah, on toilet breaks at work back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
just go, 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 go. And I knew it wasn't sustainable, but there was the passion and the excitement was there.
Yes.
I was like, well, yes, maybe in time, like now that it's actually a business and I actually have like staff to pay and systems to run and things to do, like I'm like, oh, okay, now I actually schedule self-care. Like I have to have like 4
Yes.
hours in the morning where it's like you just like sit and like don't touch anything. um
Yeah.
so you can create, like you can have that longer term goal of like how to make it more sustainable. And I like to say it's more of that feminine leadership, more feminine
Yes.
flow, because yes, there's
Mm-hmm.
still hard work as a feminine, like in that energy. However, it can feel and look and flow differently, which is really fun. So I love that.
Yeah.
I like to ask everyone this question because leadership was one of the big drivers for me to get into trying to make this place a happier world, because I saw leadership done really well and I saw it done really badly. And of course, whether you're leading in a home or in a corporation, like it ripples. And
Absolutely.
so I'd love to hear, like, what does the concept or the embodiment of leadership mean for you?
Oh, I love that. I love that
Mm.
so much.
And it gets to change.
Sure. Right now, I think the concept of leadership means to me to cultivate an energy for the group and with the group, and kind of like be the pillar for the co-creation of that
Mm,
energy is kind of how I see it. And it's so important, and you're so right that it does ripple.
mm,
We do affect each other whether we realize it consciously or not. The what we bring to the room matters. And sometimes as a leader, I think it takes digging, like digging from a place where if you don't feel like you have it today, but you know you have a group of people relying on you and you can't reschedule,
mhm,
sometimes it really does just take like mustering it up and trusting the people around you too. I think as a leader, leaders
mm,
who don't trust the people that they're leading are like sometimes the worst freaking leaders, because like I'm a human too. I have contributions. I have ideas. Listen to me. Like people want to be heard and listened to and like
mm,
treated like they also have a say. So yeah, just trusting, having a little bit of freaking faith that
mm.
people know what they're doing, I think is a great quality of a leader too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's so, like, I love that you mentioned that kind of reflection that we get from whether it's audience or team or whoever's in our life. Because I've learned a lot from that concept that everything is like a reflection back of something that's happening in us, whether it's
Mhm.
an unconscious program, whether it's something I'm doing somewhere else and it's being reflected back here. Like, so it's like I use all of it as feedback. And I'm like, okay, so they don't, maybe they're frustrated with me or they don't trust me or they're not listening to me. I'm like, cool, where am I not trusting myself right now? Where am I not listening to
Ooh,
myself? Cool. And the fun thing is, and this is the magic, is like when you actually do that and you start to go, where am I doing that or being that or thinking it? And then you like clean it up in yourself, like either that person disappears or they get better. And it's
yes,
like a magic
yes, that's
trick.
so true. It is like magic. Things are magic. There's
Yeah.
no other word. Well, maybe
Yeah.
there's some other words, but I prefer that. I like that.
Yeah. It's magic, but it's
Legit.
also scientific. Like it's
Yes.
it's all the thing.
Yes.
So
Oh, that's
great.
my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Truth.
This has been such a great conversation. So tell me, like, what's coming up next for you? What are you excited about, and where can people find you?
Yes. What I'm so excited about right now and what's coming up next and already happening. I actually just launched it yesterday. My 90-day program, Feel Good Again Academy, FGA for short, FGA Academy. It's going to
Right.
be a one-on-one and group kind of hybrid program with
Mm,
weekly workshops, one-on-one meetings, suggested readings, all the vibes, daily communication. I'm so excited. I think it's gonna be a really cool container for people to kind of tap into their inner fire again and push back against those stories. That's the whole point. We're rewriting stories. So
mm,
I'm very excited about that. I also
yeah.
have a podcast called Uncomplicate It, 2 words. uncomplicate isn't even a word, but I like it.
It is now.
Every time I write it down somewhere, it like underlines it in red, and I'm like, I decided it's real. So,
Yeah, it's
but
fine.
yes, that's my podcast. I love it. So much fun every Tuesday. And you could find me on Instagram at Caitlyn A. Burns.
Yay. I love that.
Yes.
Love that. And I love that you're going to be coaching, because it's like coaching just gets to be like this new thing. Like, find people in the world that you love their energy, you like their message, like you can see that it's working for them, or feel it or hear
Yes.
it, like whatever it is, whatever it comes through, and get amongst it. Like, there's always a way. And like being in like coaching containers and masterminds is just, I spent years like fumbling around, like doing the self-development myself and doing it all for free. It was great. And in 1 year, just like, bye.
It's amazing. Same. I had to experience it for myself. Like, oh my gosh, I've worked with multiple coaches now, and it just is so powerful
Yeah, it's really cool.
to have that guidance. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Humans helping humans. So fun.
oh,
All
that should be.
right. Well,
Love
thank
it.
you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you so much for this conversation. It has been divine. And we'll see you all on the next one. I'll pop all Caitlyn's details in the show notes. And yeah, so
Thank
fun.
you so much.
If you like that episode, then make sure that you click here to check out some of the other conversations with my amazing guests and friends. And if you really liked it, you can click here to subscribe so that you get notified each time a new episode goes up. And you can click down here to share it with your friends if there's something that they might also like to know. See you next time, lovely.